DJ and PK, right now it's time to talk Utah Hockey Club. Cole Bagley joining us, insider for the Zone, and his appearance is brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. Cole, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Cole, the old cliche about beating the dead horse to death, here I go. 50 points in 50 games. They're a 500 team. At what point should I accept that they're a 500 team? And at what point should I think, hey, it could click for these guys. They're young. The light could go on. We were just watching a BYU basketball game the other night, and it looked like the light went on for a talented freshman. Catchings went off for 23 points. Could these guys have it all come together in a moment, or they pretty much are who they are? We figured it out at this point.
I think I would lean more in the direction of just saying, this is who they are, and that's okay. That's exactly. I mean, I'm going to beat a dead horse, alongside with you. This is what the front office said they were going to be this year. Bill Armstrong from the beginning said they're going to be a 500 team. They're going to look incredible some nights and terrible others, and I think that's just what, Utah Hockey Club fans need to kind of grow accustomed to this year. And that's normal as they continue in the rebuild. They're 4 years in. They are starting to turn a corner. They've got remarkable young talent that's really coming along, but they still have those growing pains. With several guys in their young 20s and, a couple of other older veterans, they haven't quite evolved into that true competitor yet, and that's okay. Like I said, there's a plethora of prospects up and coming. There's a lot of assets that this team has and an ability to make moves in a trade market if they feel inclined to. And so, yeah, the future is bright, but right now it's tough for fans. I think Utah just seems to continue to be unable to play a complete 60 minutes. And nights like last night have been very familiar where it's a close game. It's a tight game. They've arguably played better than the other team. But, when it comes down the stretch, they just have been unable to put the finishing touches on it.
Really surprised me the level of noise that was made when Pittsburgh scored. And then they pan the crowd and you see a lot of folks in the Penguins jerseys. I get that happens, but Pittsburgh seems a little out of the way. It's not like it's down the road, maybe in Denver or California or what have you. Is it because of Crosby? And why were there so many Pittsburgh fans there?
Yeah, I mean, that franchise has had two of the greatest players of all time lead them through key eras. Mario Lemieux, in the 80s and 90s, and right after that, Sidney Crosby. And Crosby's in the face of the league. I mean, if you're going to compare him to someone in the NBA, it's like LeBron James. Wherever LeBron goes, whether it was Miami or Cleveland or LA, there was always going to be, a whole bunch of LeBron fans in the building, and that's the same thing with Sidney Crosby. He's arguably the greatest to ever do it. He's up there with the likes of Wayne Gretzky, and fans were treated to the full display of, his legendary skill last night as he won the game for his team in overtime with a beautiful goal. Pittsburgh obviously is not a major city, a major town, but I think a lot of fans, were hooked in back-to-back eras, different age groups. I myself, grew up a Pittsburgh Penguins fan because of Sidney Crosby. He's just an outstanding player, an incredible human, and it's those kinds of guys that attract a lot of fans.
It seems like there's always opposing fans there, and given the fact that we're in a town where there wasn't an NHL team until a couple of months ago, maybe I should just expect that, right? Because people, for a variety of reasons, because of where their parents lived or where they lived, or who knows why, favorite player, they latch on to teams. It seems like there's always 500 fans for the opposing team. And I'm used to going to Utah, BYU, and Jazz games, and you can predict it. So, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any reason someone would show up for Columbus, and they won't have as many as Pittsburgh had for all the reasons you just listed. But whether it's Columbus, St. Louis, Philly, I should just expect 500 fans from the opposing team every night, shouldn't I? Minimum?
Yeah, I think it's similar to the NFL, right? Like, so all of a sudden we have a team. But, for up until now, fans of hockey have had to cheer for outside teams. And, there's obviously been certain influences like, the greatness of Sidney Crosby or, original six teams always, seem to attract a lot of people. And then you've got Colorado, the Avalanche, and they've been very good over the last, 5 years. They won a Stanley Cup in 2022. You got the Vegas Golden Knights, down there, and that team really pushed to attract the Utah fan base with how many Frozen Fury preseason games they participated in here in Salt Lake, and just how close Vegas is and how many people travel down there. So yeah, it's a melting pot of fans. But I think as time goes on, I've spoken with a lot of fans. I've talked with a lot of fans who have said, yeah, originally my team were the Avalanche or the Rangers or the Flyers, but I'm now bought into this Utah Hockey Club. This is my team now. And so I think as time goes on, people will accept Utah a little bit more. I think you'll see a little bit less fans, but as fresh as they are and as dedicated as some of the fans are with those other teams, yeah, there's some pretty decent crowds for the opposition.
So which name do you think is going to prevail?
Mammoth.
And why is that?
I just think, when you look at the list of names that was originally presented, Wasatch was not on there.
No.
And they shared yesterday that Wasatch is kind of serving as a replacement for Yeti,
right?
Which is fine, but it just doesn't. It has not resonated with fans. It hasn't even been 24 hours since the information came out, but on social media and talking with fans at the game last night at the arena, they just don't like Wasatch. And I think in a lot of ways, it's just kind of strange. We obviously love our mountains here, but the team shouldn't be named after a mountain range. That would be like, the New York Rangers being the New York skyline, or the Los Angeles Kings being the Los Angeles Hollywood sign. Like, we don't need to make it, an object per se. I think Mammoth has been one of the top 3 or 4, all the way. There's been a big group of fans that have pushed for that. There's actually 3 or 4 guys who show up in Mammoth suits to every single Utah Hockey Club game. Last night they were actually sitting on the glass, and Utah Hockey Club is a good name as well. But again, it just doesn't feel fully fitting to the NHL. When you think of other team names, especially some of the most legendary teams, you got the Boston Bruins, you got the Pittsburgh Penguins, you've got the San Jose Sharks, the Anaheim Ducks, the Vancouver Canucks, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Seattle Kraken. Like, I think it just rolls off the tongue a little bit better and closer to those. The Utah Mammoth, and I think it goes of the 3. I think it just goes a little bit better with the color palette. And from what I've seen so far, and some polls online already and talking to fans, Mammoth seems to be the clear favorite by a wide margin.
Mammoth it is then.
We have a poll question up, a super official Twitter poll, which is absolutely, numerically just spot on. 65% want Mammoth, 11% want Utah Hockey Club, 5% want Wasatch, 18% are saying none of the above. So there you go. And that's 300 votes, and it's on Twitter, so that's got to be real. Why haven't they released any of the vote totals? I wonder if there's something going on where they know what they want. They want to make sure that it isn't, that they aren't way out in left field. And as long as what they want is close to the top, it doesn't have to win, in which case you wouldn't want to reveal, I guess, that it didn't win. Is that it? Are they just holding on to a little of the information? Because PK is like, I want to see the numbers. I guess most people probably do want to see the numbers. Right? I mean, I can tell you I don't, but when's the last time that you showed me some numbers and I didn't look at them? So I guess I probably just have to plead guilty. Yeah, I want to see them too.
Right. I mean, they're being pretty, they're protecting the information. It also goes into the fact that if you want to vote, you got to be at a game. They will not be releasing any of the images. And if you go and vote, you're not allowed to take pictures. You have to go into this little, kind of draped off area, turn your back to the concourse and vote on an iPad. I mean, they're being protective of it. I could understand it. I think a lot of what you kind of just described. Is I think they want to make sure that there's a clear favorite, and I anticipate that Mammoth is going to be the clear favorite. And in the next week, when this short fan voting is done, that they'll know pretty quickly that they want to be Mammoth. That fans want that of the three. And, moving forward, once they announce the team, I would anticipate that we will then see the numbers, just so that they can show, hey, yeah, I mean, the fans chose the name. It was, by a landslide, 70% of, 15,000 or whatever number they threw out yesterday in terms of what they're anticipating to receive in votes, picked Mammoth. And so that's what we're going to be.
You're around the team a lot, and you wonder what the mood is. They go half empty, half full type of thing. Half empty mean, oh, my gosh, we came up short again. Or half full, we're right there.
Yeah, this team is really frustrated right now. They had a little hot streak. They won 3 games in a row, and now they've lost, I think, 3 in a row. It's tough, to have these ups and downs is not easy. I mean, I think the team understands where they are. I think they're very realistic about what they can do, and a playoff push is realistic, but they just haven't been able to put it together. And there's some true competitors on this team. Guys like Clayton Keller, he's a fierce competitor. Mikhail Sergachev, who's won 2 Stanley Cups, he's a fierce competitor. We talked to him last night, and he was just kind of a little. He was clearly frustrated. He was a little dumbfounded by the fact that this team just continues to kind of do the same thing. They come out hot. They have a tough second or third period. They can't play it, put together a complete 60 minutes consistently, and they end up losing these tight games. I mean, they've gone to overtime the second most of any team in the National Hockey League, and they're not winning most of those. They've lost a lot, and they've lost a lot at home, and it gets frustrating for these guys, regardless of the fact that they understand that they're not going to win a Stanley Cup this year. They want to take the game to the next level, and they're fierce in their competitors. They want to win, and so yeah, they're not decimated by any means, but there's obvious frustrations.
In other sports, I've heard people talk about the rosters need to be 1/3 young guys, 1/3 guys in their prime, and 1/3 older guys. The young guys are how you improve. They're the ones who are going to help you get better. The guys in their prime get it done night in and night out and carry the weight of winning most of the time. And the vets are there for key moments, clutch situations, to say the right thing when there could be trouble in the locker room. They say and do the right thing to get the team straightened out and on track. And if you don't have that combination, it's really hard to win at the highest level. Is that true in hockey, or is that something that applies to other sports only?
No, I think it's true in hockey. Looking at some of the teams, if you take the Pittsburgh Penguins, for example, in 2009 when Sidney Crosby won his first Stanley Cup, he was part of a young core of Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Marc-Andre Fleury, and himself. And, they had a lot of very talented veterans that kind of filled in the gaps. And like you said, had the experience and could rise to the occasion in key moments. Same thing when Pittsburgh went back-to-back in 2016 and 2017. There was a lot of what helped that team bring it together. They weren't as young as they were, that core, but they were in their primes, and they went out to the trade market. They went to free agency. They brought in veterans, a guy like Patrick Hornquist, Phil Kessel. Like, these were guys that they knew that they could rely on in key moments. Chris Kunitz, players that had been there before, and those players made key plays that helped push that core over the top and win Stanley Cups. And yeah, that's what I think Utah in a sense is trying to do. They've got their young guys. They went out, they got a guy like Mikhail Sergachev, they brought in a guy like Kevin Stenlund, players like Ian Cole, but they're just still not quite developed enough. This young core consists of a 20-year-old in Logan Cooley, a 21-year-old in Dylan Gunther. Clayton Keller's obviously a little bit older at 26, but he's still learning. He's figuring out how to be a captain, and so it's just going to take time. And that's an asset that Utah has. They're not in any rush. They're not trying to win a cup now. They don't have their backs against the wall. They've got all the time in the world to figure this out.
I'd like a little more urgency than that, quite frankly. Let's go. But I guess I'll have to wait. No rush. You can't turn a 20-year-old into a 25-year-old overnight, and clearly there's some promise with those guys. Cole, thanks for the time. We appreciate it as always.
Of course. Thank you, gentlemen.
Cole Bagley, Utah Hockey Club insider for The Zone. When we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us.